The HMS Valiant cut through the vast, gray expanse of the North Atlantic. Days bled into weeks, each one a mirror of the last. The sea was calm, almost unnaturally so, under a sky that seemed to hold its breath. A quiet monotony had settled over the ship, broken only by the creak of the timbers and the distant cries of gulls. Below deck, in the quiet solitude of his cabin, Jonathan Pike was deeply absorbed in his work. His quill moved with precise strokes, adding new details to a large, unfurled chart. He carefully inked a newly discovered coastline, his brow furrowed in concentration. For Jonathan, the world was a puzzle waiting to be mapped, its secrets waiting to be drawn. On the main deck, Captain Marcus Bowen stood at the rail, his posture unyielding. He raised his brass spyglass, sweeping the horizon with a practiced, professional gaze. His weathered face, framed by a thick, gray-streaked beard, showed no emotion. It was a routine born of years at sea, a vigilant watch over his ship and crew. Later, Jonathan stood by his cabin's porthole, gazing out at the endless, gray expanse. He let out a quiet sigh, a sound of longing. While he loved his maps, the constant sameness of the sea sometimes felt like a cage. He yearned for something new, a mystery to unravel beyond the familiar charts. Suddenly, a sharp cry pierced the quiet air. High above, in the crow's nest, a sailor was pointing frantically towards the horizon. His voice was too distant to be heard clearly, but his urgent gestures spoke volumes. Something had broken the monotonous calm. On deck, Captain Bowen reacted instantly. He brought his spyglass back to his eye, his movements swift and practiced. His expression, previously stern, now shifted. A flicker of curiosity, perhaps even intrigue, crossed his face as he focused on the distant object. Jonathan, drawn by the sudden commotion, quickly joined the captain on deck. Bowen lowered his spyglass slightly, offering it to him. Through the lens, Jonathan saw it, a two-masted brig, the Seraphina. It was strangely pristine, almost perfect for a ship adrift. A signal cannon boomed from the Valiant's bow, its sound echoing across the quiet water. A puff of white smoke drifted slowly towards the Seraphina. The Valiant's crew waited, their faces expectant, but no answer came. The derelict ship remained silent, an unsettling presence on the calm sea. Captain Bowen slowly lowered his spyglass, a deep frown settling on his face. The lack of response was concerning. It suggested trouble. He turned to his first mate, a burly man named Thomas, and gave a decisive order. "Prepare a longboat. We will investigate." The longboat was swiftly lowered into the water, splashing softly. Jonathan Pike, his intellectual curiosity piqued, was among the first to descend the rope ladder. He joined the armed sailors, their faces grim but ready. The mystery of the Seraphina beckoned, and Jonathan was eager to uncover its secrets. The longboat cut through the calm blue water. Each stroke of the oars brought us closer to the mystery. The Seraphina grew larger with every moment. She looked eerily perfect, as if recently launched. No sign of damage or neglect appeared on her hull. This was highly unusual for a derelict ship. As we reached the Seraphina, a sailor named Thomas expertly threw a grappling hook. It caught firmly on the ship's rail. Another sailor, James, quickly secured a rope ladder. One by one, the men began to climb. Their movements were silent, full of caution. A strange quietness hung in the air. I was the last to ascend the ladder. My boots made a soft thud as I stepped onto the Seraphina's deck. The silence was absolute, almost oppressive. I scanned every detail, my eyes searching for any clue. My mind raced, trying to understand this impossible scene. The ship felt empty, yet ready for departure. The deck was completely empty. There were no crew members, no signs of struggle. Everything was clean and in perfect order. A single piece of white laundry, perhaps a shirt, fluttered gently on a line near the main mast. It was a strangely domestic detail on a ghost ship. This perfection felt deeply eerie. William, one of our sailors, ventured into the ship's galley. He called out, his voice a low whisper. Inside, he found a pot of stew sitting over cold embers in the stove. On a nearby cutting board, a loaf of bread lay half-sliced. It seemed the crew had vanished in the middle of a meal. The discovery was profoundly unsettling. I moved towards the captain's cabin, my curiosity growing. The door stood slightly ajar. Inside, the cabin was as tidy as the rest of the ship. Several navigational charts were spread out on a large wooden desk. They seemed to have been recently consulted. It suggested an abrupt end to their journey. My gaze fell upon a thick, leather-bound book on the desk. It was the captain's logbook. I picked it up carefully, its weight familiar in my hands. My expression became thoughtful as I opened it. I hoped it would offer some answers to this strange puzzle. Perhaps the last entry would explain everything. I turned to the last page. The handwriting was neat and consistent throughout, but the final entry stopped abruptly. It read, "The fog is unusual. It seems to—" The sentence simply cut off, unfinished. It was as if the writer had vanished mid-thought. Back on deck, one of our sailors, Robert, pointed to the main mast. His voice was hushed. I looked up, following his gaze. Carved deeply into the smooth wood of the mast was a strange symbol. It was unlike any navigational mark I had ever seen. My heart quickened with intrigue. I immediately pulled out my personal notebook and a pencil. My cartographer's instincts took over. The symbol was a circle with 3 intersecting lines, precisely drawn. I carefully sketched it onto the page, noting every detail. This symbol felt important, a key to the ship's mystery. I had to understand its meaning. Below decks, the other sailors finished their search. They found no signs of struggle or forced entry. Empty bunks stood in neat rows, their blankets folded. Personal belongings, simple clothes, and small trinkets were left behind in the crew's quarters. It was as if the crew had simply vanished into thin air, leaving everything in perfect order. The silence was unsettling. I returned to the captain's cabin, a small, organized space. The air felt heavy, as if secrets lingered. My eyes scanned the room, searching for any overlooked detail. Under the sturdy wooden bunk, a heavy iron-banded sea chest sat. Its dark wood and metal straps suggested it held something important, something well protected. I knelt, pulling at the chest's heavy lid. It was securely locked, unyielding to my efforts. A wave of frustration washed over me, but it quickly turned into determination. I examined the brass lock closely, its mechanism intricate and robust. Someone had wanted to keep this chest's contents very safe. Later, the boarding party returned to the HMS Valiant. We stood on the quarterdeck, reporting our strange findings to Captain Bowen. The captain listened, his face grim, as we described the empty ship and the untouched belongings. The mystery of the Seraphina's vanished crew hung heavy in the air. I stepped forward, holding out my sketch of the peculiar symbol. "Captain," I began, "this symbol was on the astrolabe and the chart." I then described the logbook's final unfinished entry, how it cut off mid-sentence. I believed these were crucial clues, not mere coincidences. Captain Bowen simply nodded, his expression unchanging. "Pike," he said, his voice firm, "it's a derelict ship, a salvage case." He saw no deep mystery, only an opportunity. He turned to his first mate, ordering the crew to prepare tow lines for the Seraphina. His decision was clear and practical. I could not let it go. "But Captain," I argued, my voice rising with passion, "the locked chest." I insisted that it must hold the answer to the crew's strange disappearance. It was the only thing left untouched, the only thing truly hidden. Surely it held the key to this unsettling void. The captain hesitated, his gaze shifting. He looked from my earnest, pleading face to the silent, pristine Seraphina. The brig sat calmly on the waves, a beautiful yet deeply mysterious vessel. He was clearly conflicted, torn between his practical duties and the strange anomaly before him. With a heavy sigh, Captain Bowen finally relented. "Very well, Pike," he said, his voice tinged with resignation. "You have until morning to investigate further." He warned me to be quick and to find something substantial. It was a small victory, but a victory nonetheless. As dusk settled, I returned to the Seraphina alone. A small toolkit was clutched in my hand, ready for the task ahead. The ship seemed even more silent, more watchful under the fading light. My determination was firm. I would uncover the secrets of that chest before dawn. I knelt by the captain's heavy sea chest, the wood feeling rough beneath my fingertips. The cabin was silent, only the gentle creak of the ship breaking the quiet. Carefully, I took out my small metal pick, a tool I often used for delicate map work. My focus narrowed to the intricate lock, a small challenge in this vast mystery. I began to work, my breath held tight. Time seemed to stretch, each second feeling like an hour. My hands were steady, although a bead of sweat traced a path down my temple. I listened intently for any sound from the lock, my ears straining in the stillness. Then, after several tense moments, a soft, distinct click echoed in the small space. The lock had given way. A quiet sigh of relief escaped my lips. With the lock now open, I slowly, cautiously lifted the heavy lid of the chest. The old wood groaned softly as it opened, revealing the dark interior. My eyes widened almost immediately, filled with a mixture of surprise and profound awe. I had expected maps or perhaps some personal effects, but what lay inside was far more extraordinary. It was unlike anything I had ever seen. Nestled within the chest, resting upon a bed of dark, rich velvet, were two objects. One was an intricate navigational tool, unlike any I knew. It was the void astrolabe, its matte black surface seeming to absorb all light around it. Beside it lay a rolled-up scroll, the celestial chart, its vellum glowing faintly. They appeared strangely perfect, untouched by time or the sea. I reached into the chest, my fingers trembling slightly with anticipation. Carefully, I lifted the strange black void astrolabe. It felt surprisingly heavy, much heavier than its size suggested, almost as if it were made of compressed darkness. Its surface was cool and smooth, yet it seemed to hum with a silent energy. I turned it over in my hands, observing its unfamiliar symbols. After a moment, I carefully placed the void astrolabe onto the captain's desk. Its dark form stood out against the polished wood. Then my attention shifted to the rolled-up celestial chart. I picked it up, feeling the unusual smoothness of the vellum. With a growing sense of anticipation, I began to unroll it slowly across the desk's surface. As the celestial chart slowly unrolled, its alien star patterns began to reveal themselves. These were not the constellations I knew. They were utterly foreign. At that precise moment, a low, faint hum started to emanate from the void astrolabe on the desk. It was a subtle vibration, yet it filled the quiet cabin, a deep, resonant sound. The air around it seemed to shimmer. I froze, my hands still on the unrolling chart. My gaze snapped from the strange star patterns to the humming astrolabe. A look of profound confusion twisted my features, quickly followed by alarm. What was happening? These objects were clearly connected, but the nature of their power was beyond my understanding. A chill ran down my spine. Suddenly, the scene cut away from the quiet cabin. We were now on the wind-swept deck of the HMS Valiant. High above, in the crow's nest, the lookout, a young man named Thomas, pointed frantically towards the horizon. His mouth was open in a shout, but the wind snatched his words away. His posture conveyed pure urgency and panic. From the direction Thomas pointed, a thick, unnatural wall of fog was rolling in. It moved with impossible speed, unlike any natural sea mist. This ominous fog seemed to target only our two ships, the Valiant and the Seraphina. It swiftly surrounded them, cutting them off completely from the rest of the world. We were alone, swallowed by the void.
Es momento de la trivia. Te haré 2 preguntas sobre la historia que acabas de escuchar. Piensa bien las respuestas y déjalas en los comentarios. Pregunta número 1. ¿Qué 2 objetos específicos se encontraron en la cocina de Seraphina que indicaban que la tripulación desapareció durante una comida? Toma acá tu tiempo para pensar. Pregunta número 2. ¿Qué evento sobrenatural ocurrió justo después de que Jonathan desplegara el mapa celestial y el astrolabio del vacío comenzara a zumbar? Esas son las 2 preguntas de nuestra trivia. No olvides dejar tus respuestas en los comentarios. Me encanta leer lo que piensan sobre las historias.
Si te gustó el video, pon me gusta, suscríbete y activa la campanita para no perderte la próxima parte.